Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Tag Heuer Autavia 2017, also known as the Heuer Heritage Caliber Heuer 02. And the reference on this guy is CBE 2110.FC8226. So there you go. That's the vital information for you. This guy, first off though, this was provided to me as a review sample loan from my buddies over at Lewis Jewelers in Ann Arbor, Michigan. These are my jewelers. They know. Oh man, they have more of my money than I'd like to admit. But nevertheless, they loaned this little guy along for me to take a look at. I told them, as always, I'm going to talk about the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. But they've been great to me, and they can be great to you too. Just contact my buddy DK over there. Tell him Nick sent you. You can get some special pricing on this and any other number of gems out there. But thanks very much, Lewis Jewelers, for letting me take a look at this little guy. There's that. A couple of other notes here. Let's do some size measurements right quick before we go too deep into it. Put myself in millimeter mode here. So we are coming in here size-wise at around 42.5 millimeters overall. The lug-to-lug distance on this guy is coming in right around about 50 millimeters overall. The thickness on this guy is thick. We are coming in around 16 millimeters, depending on where you are on the exactly on the crystal there, which is domed. As you can see right here, so it's kind of a thick one here. And the band width on this guy, the width of the band is 20.8 millimeters. So there you go. Probably 20.8, really? That's probably just 20. No, it looks to be about 20.8, 20.4. Okay, so it's about 20. Whatever it is, it's that's about what it is in terms of your overall width there. Next thing, this guy is also available on a fine link sort of grains of rice bracelet from Tag. I wasn't able to handle it on the bracelet, so I can't vouch for the bracelet there, but it's only $150 more, and generally speaking, it's easier to get a strap than a bracelet for a watch. So, often I recommend you go ahead and buy on the bracelet if it's not a big difference. Next thing, the history on this guy. This is actually a recreation of the 1966 Autavia reference 2446 Mark III. It's a vintage watch, and Tag did sort of a contest where they asked everybody, hey, what vintage Tag would you like to see reissued? And this guy ended up winning, and I can kind of see why. It's a very handsome piece. Then finally, this is going to be a quick review because this is factory fresh. I didn't really get a chance to wear it or anything like that. Only have it for a couple of days here, so I'm going to give my overall perspective, but that doesn't mean it's they basically don't take this with as much gravitas as a full year-long worth of wear sort of review from me. So anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your Heuer Autavia 2017 over here. So on the good side, to start with, the case is nice. You can see here it's got some polishing along the side here. It's got some nice, the edges, the bezel are very nice. Overall, it's a nice, what looks to be an aluminum bezel. Yeah, I'd buy that. Can't exactly vouch for the material, but either way, you got that right there. You've got a nice little, you can see here it says Heuer right there on the case. Very, very nice, or on the crown, that is. On the back side here, you've got yourself a display back, along with a little bit of printing here. But overall, the case on it is quite nice. Next thing, the lume on this watch is quite good. I'm going to go ahead and charge it off camera with a serious duty flashlight, and then what you'll be able to see is, oh yeah, that's lume. And so in fact, every one of the indices is lume. There's a little pip right above there, as well as the two hands on there, at least the two the hour and the minute hand are lume. The second hand is not, because it doesn't necessarily need to be. But either way, it's got that lume there, and it's actually a vintage sort of inspired lume. It's sort of a darker creamy yellow lume, but you know what? It looks quite attractive. Overall, the effect is good, and it does absolutely work as lume over the long term, so that's good. Next thing, this has a 12-hour bezel on it. So what I can do with this guy is, for instance, let's say that I want to know what time it is in the Eastern time zone. Here I am, I'm in San Diego, California at the moment, but right now I can look at this, and I can, by knowing the current time, and by adjusting this to the Eastern time, which is 3 hours ahead of me, I can instantly look down and know, oh, hey, it's 9 o'clock. You may be thinking, well, Nick, that's nothing. But the thing is, what if I wanted to go know in South African time? And right there, that's a pretty substantial difference, about 10 hours. Right there, I can very easily calculate that out as well, knowing that it is 4 a.m., which is, again, very, very, very helpful. And so having that there at a glance at a bidirectional bezel means that not only can you use this to time things, for instance, position the bezel, oh, when I get to the triangle, I can get off the damn plane, but it can also be very helpful for doing time zone math at a glance. If you're feeling maybe it's a little early in the morning, your brain's not ready to do multiplication or addition. Actually, just addition, let's be real. But either way, that can be a useful little thing. Nice to see it here. Next thing, this guy has 100 meters worth of water resist, as it says right on the back here, 100 meters. And what that basically means is that you don't need to worry about water with this. I mean, it's not even a screw-down crown or anything like that, but they've pulled it off. And so basically, water is fine. You can get this guy wet, although the strap won't like it much. And so that's good. Next thing, this is using the Heuer O2 movement back here. This is actually an in-house movement, Caliber Heuer O2. You can see it right there, Swiss-made, but it is an in-house movement from TAG. But it's got a lot of nice features to it. It has right over here, you can see a date. It is currently the first, complete with a quick set feature. If you pull this out to the very first position here, you can then change the date, as long as you're not doing this. So, yeah, helps if I go the right direction. Just don't do that between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. or else it could screw some things up there. But it's got the quick set date. It has hacking seconds. If I pull the crown all the way out, the second hand stops, which is nice. A 75-hour power reserve, which is very respectable. It is a chronograph, as you can see here. The chrono is running. See, I can stop the chronograph there, and I can tell you that it has been exactly an hour and 30, let's see here, about hour 35 minutes since I started the chrono. So there you go. And then you can go ahead and reset that, and there you go. It is a reasonably accurate movement, running around 3 seconds a day fast. And then it is a super smooth wind and a rotor. This is just a really, really smooth wind. It's a silly thing to say, but at some level, that is a sign of quality with a mechanical watch, is when you try and wind this guy, or when you want to move it such that the rotor can rotate, does it rotate smoothly? Is it easy? Is it, is it nice? Yeah, it's nice. This is a really very nice, smooth movement, and I gotta appreciate that 100%. So that's good. And then finally, on the good side, this is using a chronograph, and it's a well-done chronograph, too, because as you can see here, you hit the top button, the white second hand starts moving here, and that's timing a second. But then over here, you've got a 30-minute sub-dial, and then you've got a 12-hour sub-dial. So you've got these two different, I guess they're called totalizers, but still, you got these two ones, which means you can time up to 12 hours and 30 minutes without any dial going back around, and that's really nice. That gives you a chance to do longer-term timing. It lets you time a flight, those kinds of things, and that can be a very, very nice thing on occasion. So that's good. And overall, a chronograph can be a nice feature, and it certainly is an attractive one here. So to me, at least, that all is what's good here, is that it's got a nice chronograph. It's got the Heuer O2 movement, which is in-house with a bunch of really nice features, 100 meters worth of water resist. It is a 12-hour bezel, solid lume, and a very well-done case. To me, what is great about this guy, 100%, is the face. It is just a lovely, lovely watch face on here. And we can show that off in a variety of ways. I mean, to start with, if we look at the indices here, you can see that all of the indices, you've got a nice little brushed area up here. You've got a nice little polished area up there. And that's a little detail, but it's very important. You've got lume, brush, polish. So the brush allows it to be, basically, you will always, no matter whether there's something, dark over here in the corner here, I'll put up this piece of cloth here. So you can see here that in that situation, the polished indices kind of go dark, but the brushed indices stay light. That's a beautiful thing alongside the lume. And so that little three-way gradation is very, very nicely done. You also have that vintage colored lume, which you're starting to see right here. It's a little bit mustardy, which is actually pretty attractive. You have a panda dial with the white on top of the black over here, and the black is very nicely done. Although the tag and whatnot are not applied or anything, it's a dial that has a little bit of reflectivity to it. It's not just stupid flat black. Another nice thing to say, take a look at the the white subdials there. You can see there's actually a little bit of a spiral look to it. The indices in the subdials are painted on, but they're painted nicely onto this little spiral area, which is actually gives a little bit of visual intrigue. Very nice detail here. The subdials are nicely arranged. The date window is actually well hidden within these subdials. So if you're looking at this, it looks like a vintage chrono, but only you can really, at a glance, realize that, oh, okay, that's the date, not another chrono number. Which is nice. The logo on here, the retro logo, is nice. I mean, honestly, I like this watch a lot, in part because it is a very retro-looking watch, but it's also quite understated, and it is very modern. I mean, I can look at this guy. It doesn't look like it's out of place in the modern era, like some retro-style kinds of things do. It's a watch that could very easily be worn by somebody with no appreciation of the retro aesthetic, but it is unquestionably there when you look under the surface. And so, to me, that's what's great here, is it's a nice combination of both incredible dial finishing, very, very nicely done, as well as that combination of retro and modern and understated on the whole. I just find it a very attractive face on this watch, and to me, that's what's great. On the bad side, first off, unfortunately, a panda dial as well as a chronograph can be occasionally less legible with a three-hand sort of thing, especially when you've got a little bit of light reflecting off of those guys. It's easy to lose track of the hour and minute hand on top of all of those subdials. Is it a big deal? No, but it's a thing. Speaking of things that are a thing, this is a chronograph watch, and although that's great for timing things, mechanical chronos can be a mixed bag, because they result in a watch that is a little thicker than it might otherwise have been. It makes it more expensive than it might have otherwise been. It makes it more pricey to service down the road than a three-hand watch would be. I mean, basically, the reason I bring this up is that a lot of people think, oh, well, I need a chrono. The real question is, do you? Do you actually need that? Are those features actually going to be bringing you joy, or is it just going to cost you a little bit more when it comes time to service and when it comes time to buy it? It's not a big deal, but it is something to ask yourself. Would you be happy with a three-hand watch? And if so, maybe consider going that route. A little simpler. Not a big deal, though. Next thing, the black rotor in the back here honestly doesn't really do it for me at all. You can see here it's got this, although it's nicely, colored and whatnot, it kind of contrasts poorly with this beautifully polished movement overall. It just feels a little cheap, a little chintzy to me. I don't know, maybe I'm off base there, and it's also, by the way, a little loud. Listen to this. Maybe you can't hear it. I certainly can. But it's definitely a little bit loud. Hearing this guy, especially when it's in a low state of wind, you can definitely hear it going in there. Not a big deal, but it's something to consider. I'm getting into bigger deals. This watch is actually still pretty expensive. It's $5,300 as you see it configured right now on the strap, and it is $5,450 on the bracelet. Mind you, that's not a big change from strap to bracelet, and I do appreciate that very much. But honestly, that's a lot of freaking money. That is the retail price, though. You should not pay retail. You should talk to a tag AD. They can probably help you out. Heck, if yours won't talk to my AD, Lewis will help you. Lewis Jewelers help you out. Talk to DK. But you shouldn't pay the retail price, but the retail price remains a lot of money, and that's not something I'm in love with. I mean, it doesn't feel super obscene here, I'll say that much. $5,450 on a bracelet for an in-house movement chronograph that's finished beautifully like this one is. I'm not completely bent out of shape about it, but I still do feel like I'm paying for somebody's Swiss chalet if I buy this guy right here. And especially given that TAG is a brand that is in many ways defined by its value relative to Rolex, Omega, etc. They're kind of like, oh, we're the Swiss folks who don't hate your wallet. I feel like I'd like to see them push the value a little harder here. I'd feel really, really good about this guy at 4K rather than the 5K. But as it stands, it's fine, and you might consider if you're loving the look, but it's kind of up there. Next thing, the crystal on this guy, as I highlighted earlier, is a little bit proud of the bezel right here. You can see it sticking up a little bit. Not only is that a point of slight fragility, but honestly, this watch didn't need to be any thicker, and that brings us to the last bad issue here, which is that this watch is really freaking thick. I mean, it is 16 millimeters, which is really, really thick. And especially when you've got these sloping lugs here, which definitely do help with wearability, but when the bottom of it is so big underneath the sloping lugs, it just makes it a lot less compelling. Honestly, this watch just could stand to be thinner. This would be a better watch if it were thinner, and I really, it's like they need to have somebody over there in Switzerland saying, oh, wow, that looks great, nice. Okay, now make it reasonably sized. Because so many brands are doing these really thick watches these days, and they're not going to age super well. Look at the really classy pieces. Remember back when watchmaking, thinness was a sign of quality? Yeah, those days seem to be gone. And so that's the biggest problem I have with this guy, and that's the thing that would actually make this not a purchasable watch for me. It's a little too thick for me. It's 16 millimeters. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So to me, all of that is the bad, which is that it is very thick. The crystal is proud of the bezel there. It's a little pricey still. The black rotor just doesn't look super amazing, and the mechanical chrono situation, you just need to keep that in mind, both in terms of legibility as well as in terms of service costs, things like that, and ask yourself if you actually need to go there. On the ugly front, there's only one ugly issue, and this is maybe a little bit more personal for me, but honestly, this watch is sold without an accuracy certification. It is not like a chronometer. It is not COSC certified. Now, that said, this one is coming plenty accurate. I threw it on the time grapher, and it's consistently between +1 and +5 seconds per day in all of the 6 main positions. So it's not bad at all in terms of accuracy, but the simple fact is that it is 2018, and you are just not allowed to sell me a mechanical watch for more than $1,000 that doesn't guarantee things about accuracy. accuracy, that doesn't give me something. It doesn't need to be cost certified. But look, I'm sorry, you need to be saying at least something like, look, if it's running outside +5, -5, we'll make it right. That's easy to say, but and then you fix it. But guys, you need to make damn sure that these are coming out accurate, and you need to certify that, because otherwise it's just like, what am I paying you all this damn money for? That's absolutely crucial, and it feels really lazy that it's not being done here. Sure, you can get it regulated if it's a problem, but that's their problem, and they need to make sure that they're trying. And this is an area that TAG is way behind the competition relative to, for instance, Breitling, where everything's a chronometer, or Omega, which is making chronometers and even exceeding the chronometer standard, like for instance with your Seamaster 300 here, for even less money than this. So, TAG, you need to get on that, because it's getting to be a little much. But that is, to me, what's ugly here, is that they're not offering any kind of accuracy certification, even on this just beautiful watch. Final conclusion-wise, look, this is just a beautiful, beautiful watch. It's beautifully styled. It combines these retro elements with modern finishing, resulting in a watch that's, I think, very classy and just overall attractive. But the thing is, it is more than a pretty face, because it's got a very nice in-house movement. It's got a date. It's got a chronograph, and very nice power reserve, coupled with decent lume, decent water resistance, and like I said, and it's a chrono. You know what? There's a lot to love here. Sure, there are places to improve. I could definitely do without the black rotor. The price could be lower. Crystal could be thinner. Heck, the whole damn watch could be a lot thinner. And TAG needs to realize that $5,300 with no accuracy guarantee is just guaranteed not to be okay. But on the whole, I gotta say, it's a really nice little piece. That said, the competition is pretty stiff for this guy, because TAG is offering the Monaco, which is another vintage chrono, for actually less money than this. Given that one's a little bit more controversially vintage. You wear that and people are like, whoa, that's old school. But you know what? Whereas this guy, I think, could pass for modern for a lot of folks. But it's cheaper than this guy, and that's something to keep in mind. The Omega Speedmaster Professional is not very far off price-wise. In fact, depending on where you go and who you talk to AD-wise, you can probably come out a little bit ahead of it for this guy, and that is sort of the iconic vintage chronograph. The Breitling Super Ocean is a more modern, well, it's still vintagey, in the same ballpark, and it's also a nice chrono. And of course, if you want the epitome of vintage cool in a chronograph, you could get a Breitling Navitimer, which is sort of the chrono for about $1,000 more. And honestly, that would be my choice, because it's about 2 millimeters thinner than this, and I like that watch just a whole lot. But look, at the same time, though, I think there were a lot of really compelling reasons for this, and if you're liking the look of it, if you're picking up what TAG is putting down here, then you know what, I think this would be absolutely higher than your expectations, and you absolutely oughta consider picking one of these little guys up, because it is quite attractive and offers a pretty compelling package. So anyways, there you go. I hope this has been interesting to you, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of the day. Bye now.